Set up, Rex. Set up.
I don't think that's what we really mean about setting a T-Rex up, but we will show you how to set up our famous T-Rex chainsaw sharpener. Welcome to Dinosaur's instructional videos. In this episode, we're going to be looking at how to set up your automated T-Rex machine and get it grinding a chain for you. One of the changes we've made in shipping our T-Rex machines is we've added some braces. This is an arm brace, a bearing support, and an arm saddle. The idea of these guys is to stop the machine from being knocked around in transport and potentially affecting the alignment of the arm. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the cable tie holding the power cables in place. Snip that and remove it. Put the cables out of the way. Being careful not to pull on this, you can break that plastic clip. Second thing is to remove this saddle. Third thing is to remove the bearing brace. I like to use a rag, just get in there so we don't hurt the machine, a little bump, a little lever, and we're out. The next thing that we do is remove this arm support bracket, and to do that, undo the socket-headed cap screw with the Allen key provided, just a couple of turns. Then we undo this clamp knob, just a couple of turns. Now that we've loosened those off, the next process is to just tilt the arm backwards, ensuring that the latch hooks into place. Now we can fully undo this socket-headed cap screw. It is very important, do not remove this socket-headed cap screw. Take the arm away. Next thing that we do is remove the cable tie holding this bush. It's very important that this bush stays in the orientation that it was cable tied on. Put that down on the bench and unhook the cable. This is a great opportunity to put the wheel on. Simply snap the cover off. Undo the locking nut. Today I'm going to be using one of our ABN wheels. Ensure that the lock nut goes on with a bevel facing the wheel. Snap the cover back into place. So now we put this spacer on, ensuring that the small diameter goes towards the arm. Then, in this hole, do the socket-headed cap screw up and just nip that. At this point, it does not matter where the orientation of the grind motor is. The next step is to remove the two 3mm hex nuts off the back of this and install the plate that holds the wire onto the arm. Now that we've got that installed, don't over tighten these 3mm screws. They're only going into an aluminium arm. Connect the wire and we're ready to do the next adjustment. The next step is to lower the arm. Release the latch and bring the arm down. This part is important. Make sure there is ample clearance here between the bottom of the motor and the top plate on the machine. So once you've got your machine connected to your power supply, turn the machine on at the main switch and give it a few seconds. The next thing that we do is hit count and inch forward at the same time. And we let the machine cycle. The next process is to set the grinding angle. Most chains run at a 30-degree grinding angle. So now that we have pressed count inch forward, it will bring the motor over to the left-hand position. So to achieve the 30 degrees, we loosen off the socket-headed cap screw and bring the angle indicator around to 30 degrees and lock it off. So next we set the right hand angle, and to do this we press count and inch reverse at the same time and allow the machine to cycle. So to adjust the right hand angle, get the 4mm Allen key in the toolkit and insert it into the hole in the black plastic in the end of the arm. Once the Allen key is in, we can turn it counterclockwise and undo the hidden socket-headed cap screw that's down inside the arm and bring the right hand side back to 30 degrees or whichever angle you are grinding at. So now the grinding angles are set. So the thing I like to do next is to press inch forward and hold it in and observe your angle indicator and make sure that it is actually cycling to your desired angle. In this situation, it's been set at 30 degrees each way. Before loading a chain onto your T-Rex machine, it's a good time to inspect the chain and see whether there are any teeth that are left in sequence or right in sequence, and also if the chain has been previously sharpened and is not a new chain, to inspect the length of the teeth. To start with, this chain has 2 teeth left in sequence. So we need to identify this and mark it. If you have 2 teeth in sequence, as in this chain, left and left, use this flag magnet that comes with the machine and put it on the pin under the raker before the first tooth. The idea of this is when you're setting the machine up, if you happen to do one full revolution of the chain while setting it up and the machine is not in auto or magnet mode, then it will be a visual indicator to where you're having 2 teeth in sequence so as not to crash the grinding wheel onto the chain. If the chain is not brand new and has been sharpened previously, particularly by hand, then this is a good opportunity to check the tooth length around the chain. Do this by using a pair of verniers and measuring the very top edge of each tooth and seeing if there is variation between the length. It's ideal to measure multiple teeth. So in these guys, they're very close because I have sharpened this chain previously. It is my test chain. What we're looking for to see if there is a consistent variation between left and right hand teeth, or if there is an anomaly with particularly long tooth. And we'll need to be aware of this when we start the machine and set it up. So to load the chain onto the T-Rex, we simply press inch forward until the feed pawl and the feed arm come backwards. This opens the clamp up. So now, slide the chain up underneath the feed pawl and into the chain guide. You'll note that I've put the 2 left-hand teeth with the flag magnet just past the grinding wheel, which will give me plenty of chain to get my adjustments correct before the flag comes back round and does one full loop of the chain. You'll note that once I've loaded the chain that I've got the feed pawl sitting directly behind one of the teeth. So now we're at the point where we can adjust the clamp pressure onto the chain by turning this knob clockwise. To do this, we press inch forward and bring the feed pawl all the way to the top, carefully noting the position of the clamp face that it has fully come in towards the chain and gripping the chain. This is the point at which you can do the clamp up. it is best to do it up fully and back it off half a turn. That way you can check that it's not over-tensioned. If this is over-tensioned, it is possible to damage the machine. So for final adjustment on this clamp, we press inch forward, just in stages, and carefully observe the clamp face, noting that when it is fully closed. And that should be our final adjustment. But it is worth noting to check this once the machine is fully set and ready to grind. Once we have the clamp pressure adjusted, we need to make sure that the clamp plate remains parallel to the guide plate, looking down at this gap here. To do this, loosen off this nut and adjust the 6mm hex bolt until that gap becomes parallel. Then we can lock off the 6mm nut. Now we need to check to see whether the grinding wheel angle is aligned with the tooth to be ground. And we can see in this situation that it is not. So the way to correct this is simply press inch forward until the feed pawl comes back, lift the feed pawl and move it forward one tooth. Press inch forward again, and now you can see that we have alignment, the angles are aligned. With the chain loaded and the grinding wheel angle corresponding to the angle on the tooth that is to be ground, the next thing we're going to do is bring the grinding wheel down to within the gullet of the chain by adjusting this mechanism here and this guide here. This guide moves the chain forward and closer to the grinding wheel and is used to add a cut whilst grinding. This guide is a stop for how far back the feed pawl comes, and the two are interrelated. So let's have a look at this. We've got a reasonable starting position. We're not too far away, but this guy is going to have to come further forward. We cannot adjust this guy when the chain is clamped because you can damage the machine. So to start off with, let's have a look at how far back the feed pawl comes. Press inch forward and we can see that the feed pawl is coming right back towards the raker to the next tooth. So we will turn this clockwise and bring it a little further along. Over this pin here is not a bad place. So we press inch forward again and we can see that by dropping the wheel down, the chain is going to have to move forward towards the grinding wheel. So inch forward again, and quite a large adjustment here because it's quite a long way for the chain to go to come into correct position. Inch forward again, have a look, we are now getting much closer. Okay, inch forward again, and have a look here, we're in a good position. Now that the feed pawl is back, a bit more of an adjustment to bring the chain further along, and we're starting to get close. And the next thing that we're going to do is to bring the grinding wheel closer to the chain. So this is our depth adjustment, and we will bring it closer. The next thing we're looking at is adjusting this sensor here that activates the light and sends a signal back to the control board that picks up that there is two left-hand teeth in sequence, as there is on this chain. To do that, present the right-hand tooth to be ground and the left-hand tooth behind it, near the sensor. We adjust this sensor in 2 places and put the target or the bullseye of that sensor directly behind the left-hand tooth so that the bullseye is partly seen and both indicator lights are on. There is also an adjustment here, and the tooth and the sensor need to be about 2 to 3 millimeters apart. This is a good opportunity to note something. If you change from a small gauge chain to a much larger gauge chain, ensure that this sensor is moved backwards and away from the chain first. It is possible by putting a much larger chain on after a small chain for the teeth to destroy this sensor. Now that we've adjusted this sensor, it's a good time to look at the height of the feed pawl. And to do this, we simply press inch forward until the feed pawl comes back. And if we look here, it's actually in contact with the chain. That's not where we want it. We actually want to adjust it so that underneath the feed pawl and the top of the chain, there is a couple of millimeter gap just there. So now what we do is hit inch forward and check that the front edge of the feed pawl plate is hitting the lower bottom corner of the tooth. With the grinding wheel now lowered closer to the chain, we're ready to start adjusting the cut and presenting the tooth closer to the wheel. As we can see, there is a considerable gap here. This knob should not be adjusted forward when we are in the clamp position. It is possible to damage the machine. So, how do we do this? We press inch forward, and with the feed pawl returned, because we've got quite a gap, I'll give it quite a large adjustment. Feed it forward. Okay, that's starting to look closer. Now we'll wind the grinding wheel a little closer into the gullet, and we'll check the next tooth. Looking somewhat similar. We'll do this process again. Inch forward, a reasonable adjustment. Now it's looking closer to the left-hand tooth and similar to the right-hand tooth. We can keep going. Now that it's getting really quite close, I can bring the adjustment down so the grinding wheel is almost touching the bottom of the gullet. Now we're about to start getting the adjustments very accurate. Now it's time to carefully observe the gap between the grinding wheel and the tooth to be ground from one side to the other to see if there is a difference between the gap left and right. On this situation, I believe we have a larger gap this way than the other way. The sequence for getting a balanced cut from left to right hand tooth is quite simple. I've noted that we are further away on the left hand tooth than we are on the right hand tooth. So to adjust this, we'll bring it arm closer in. Then we press inch forward, observe the gap very closely to the right hand tooth. We are just touching. Observe the gap to the left hand tooth. We are just clearing, so we need to come in a little bit more. Inch forward. Just missing the right hand tooth, that's just touching. Just missing the left hand tooth. We keep doing this process until there is a very, very small gap between the cutting face of the tooth and the grinding wheel. During the process of getting the left and right hand teeth
balanced so that they will grind evenly, you may need to be adjusting this and presenting the tooth closer to the grinding wheel as you balance the gap. Once you've got it very close and the wheel just spins freely on the left hand side and the right hand side, we are nearly ready to start grinding. I shifted the flag magnet to this position because it no longer needs to flag where the two left hand teeth are, as the sensor that I adjusted earlier will be picking that up. The machine will be on automatic mode to do left teeth. This now purely becomes a flag for counting how many revolutions the chain has done. Now that most of our adjustments are done, we're nearly ready to start grinding, and this is a good opportunity to make sure that the grinding wheel is not grinding the gullet. It needs to be very close, but not actually in contact with the gullet. It is the face of the tooth that we want to be grinding. So we set the machine on the detection mode onto auto, because we have two left-hand teeth in sequence, and the black sensor that we adjusted earlier will pick up on that. We start the feed motor by pressing start, but not the grind motor, and we let it cycle as a visual check. Very soon, my two left-hand teeth will come around and it's done a little dance and done two left-hand teeth in sequence. We'll leave this run. Until our magnet gets round and comes to the top. And because I had count at 1, the white sensor on the top of the jaw face picked up the flag magnet and stopped the chain. If we were to have a higher count here, it would revolve how many times we have chosen. So now we're ready to start the grinding wheel and see how we went. With the adjustments very close, get the flag magnet and put it on one of the rakers just the other side of the grinding wheel. This will not be to pick up two left-hand teeth. It will now be there as a count flag. So we press start and then grinder, and there will be a delay from the machine starting once we've pressed the grinding button to allow the grinding wheel to ramp up. So to give us time to do some final adjustments, I'll add a couple of revolutions so that we have time to adjust. We press start, grinder, we are effectively not grinding anything. So now we increase the cut. Only on the down stroke. Looks like we're very even. Potentially grinding a little bit more on the left-hand tooth. Small adjustment, sounds better. Add a little more cut. We seem very even. Count magnet has gone past. We've gone down to 2. This looks very balanced. It would be a good idea to cycle the machines through the chain. Let it count down to 1 and stop by itself, and then measure the teeth left and right on the chain and see that they are equal or very close to it in size. Industry standard says there is approximately 0.2 millimetre allowance in variations between the teeth size. With a T-Rex machine, you should be able to get considerably closer than that. If the chain that you are grinding has no left teeth in sequence or right teeth in sequence, it is purely left and right sequence all the way around the chain, then this flag magnet gets put on a raker and becomes purely a counter for the sensor at the top of the clamp mechanism. In this situation, we change our detection mode to off because the machine does not need to detect left teeth or right teeth. It can purely cycle around the chain going left and right. If you have a chain that has two right teeth in sequence, this chain has two left teeth in sequence. Then in order for the machine to recognize that, the flag magnet that comes with the machine goes onto the raker directly before the very first right-hand tooth. So that would be a right-hand tooth and a right-hand tooth. Then we change detection mode to magnet, and the sensor at the top of the clamp mechanism will now pick up this flag magnet, and it will tell the machine to do two right-hand teeth in sequence, and it will also become a count magnet for the number of cycles we've done.
Sharpening chains is hard work, isn't it? Hope you enjoyed the free time it gives you, the extra productivity, and an opportunity to relax. See you guys next time.